Working, ladies and gentlemen, a degree is a paper, valuable, yes, but not everything. It doesn't measure your courage, your vision, or your ability to rise after failure. Working, many with top degrees work for those with dreams. Knowledge is important, but wisdom, persistence, and belief are greater. The world won't ask for your GPA. It will test your mindset. Working, your hunger, your creativity. Don't be afraid if your path is different. Just start, learn fast, fail fast, stand up, build. Prove with action, not just certificates. Working. Your value comes from within, not your diploma. A degree is often seen as the golden ticket to success, a symbol of intelligence, commitment, and readiness for the world. From a young age, working. Society teaches us that education is the path to achievement, and while that belief holds value, it's only a part of the story. A degree shows you've studied, passed exams, working, and followed a structured path, but it doesn't guarantee success, happiness, or even competence in the real world. It represents a foundation, not a finish line. Too often, working, people measure their potential or that of others by what's written on a piece of paper, overlooking qualities that truly define success, like resilience, creativity, adaptability, working, and emotional intelligence. Many individuals go through school aiming only to collect certificates, believing that once they graduate, opportunities will magically unfold, working. But the truth is more complex. The modern world values not just what you know, but how you use what you know. A degree might open a door, working, but it's your attitude and actions that decide whether you stay in the room. Plenty of people graduate with top honors and still struggle to find direction or purpose. At the same time, working. There are countless stories of those without degrees. People who faced rejection, lacked formal credentials, or dropped out, yet went on to build empires, lead teams, or change the world, working. The real question isn't whether you have a degree, it's what you do with what you have. A degree is a tool, not a trophy. It's like having a map. You might know the roads, working, but you still have to take the journey, face the weather, fix the breakdowns, and keep moving forward. Some of the most innovative minds didn't fit into the traditional mold, working. They weren't defined by grades, but by grit. They saw beyond rules and systems. They questioned, experimented, and dared to fail. And that's something no degree can teach fully, working. In today's world, where change is constant and technology evolves daily, what you learn in school can quickly become outdated. The ability to keep learning, unlearning, working, and relearning is far more valuable than memorizing content for an exam. A person with a degree who stops growing is at greater risk than someone without a degree who keeps improving, working. The world rewards problem solvers, risk takers, and people who bring energy, not just credentials. Those who take responsibility, who push limits, working. Who are willing to go where others hesitate. That's what defines a leader, not a diploma. There's also a deep flaw in the way degrees are sometimes used to measure worth, working. A person's value can't be reduced to their academic background. Some people have immense talent in areas that can't be graded, like leadership, empathy, or intuition, working. These are powerful traits in any career, yet they often go unnoticed in classrooms. The person who struggles to memorize a formula might be brilliant at inspiring a team, working. The one who barely passed math could be a master strategist in business. Education should empower, not label. Unfortunately, working. Many people allow the label of their degree, or the lack of one, to control how they see themselves. It's important to understand that degrees are designed for structure, not individuality, working. Schools teach a certain way, test a certain way, and reward a certain way. But the world isn't standardized. Life doesn't hand you multiple choice questions, working. It throws you into situations where there's no single right answer. How you handle those moments is what defines you, working. People who wait for someone to validate them with a degree often delay their own potential. But those who realize that value comes from inside, their ideas, their actions, working, their persistence, those are the people who move forward no matter what's written on their RA Sum A. This doesn't mean education isn't valuable. Learning is essential. Working, knowledge builds confidence and capability. But learning can happen anywhere. In classrooms, on the streets, through books, through failures, from mentors, working, or from building something with your own hands. Limiting the concept of learning to universities is a mistake. Lifelong learners with or without formal degrees working tend to thrive because they're always adapting. They don't wait for permission to grow. They seek out knowledge because they're hungry, not because it's assigned. Working. Many people confuse a degree with a guarantee, but there are no guarantees. A degree doesn't shield you from rejection, competition, or hardship. It doesn't make you immune to failure. Working. What it can do is offer a head start, a platform. But how far you go after that is up to you. Some people start with nothing and still win. Others have every advantage and never take off. Working. The difference lies not in the document, but in the determination behind it. You are not your degree. You are your choices, your persistence, your work ethic. Working. You also need to consider the emotional cost of attaching too much worth to a degree. People who don't have one often feel shame or insecurity, thinking they're less than others. Working. But that's a mindset trap. Confidence doesn't come from your academic history. It comes from competence and self-belief. If you can deliver value, if you can solve problems, working. If you can make things happen, people will notice with or without a certificate. Companies, clients, and collaborators care more about results than your alma mater. Working. They care whether you can deliver, not whether you sat in a lecture hall for 4 years. The job market is evolving. Skills are taking center stage over titles. Working. Employers increasingly look for portfolios, not just diplomas. Can you code? Can you design? Can you sell? Can you lead? These are the questions that matter now. Working. It's no longer enough to say you studied something. You have to show you can apply it. And if you can prove that, working. No one will care where you studied or whether you studied formally at all. Failure is one of the greatest teachers life has to offer, yet it's often feared, avoided, and misunderstood. In school, working, failure is punished. A wrong answer means lost marks. A failed test means falling behind. From childhood, many people are trained to think that failure is a bad thing, working, a sign of weakness or lack of intelligence. But in reality, outside the classroom, failure is the beginning of growth. It's the pressure that forms diamonds, the friction that creates fire, working. People who succeed in big ways often have long histories of falling short, being rejected, and making mistakes. The difference is they didn't stop. Working, they didn't let failure define them. They used it as fuel. When someone fails, they learn something about themselves. They learn what doesn't work, where they need to improve, how to adapt. Working. No textbook can offer the kind of insight that comes from losing something you cared about or being told you're not good enough. Those moments hurt, but they also shape character. Working. They sharpen focus. They make people tougher, more aware, and more driven. Many people who never fail also never take risks. They stay safe, follow the rules, and do what's expected. Working. But comfort zones don't lead to breakthroughs. Growth comes from discomfort, and failure is often the first sign that you're pushing past your limits. Working. Failure means you didn't understand something. In life, failure might mean you had the courage to try something new, something hard, something most wouldn't even attempt. Working. That kind of failure deserves respect, not shame. Every great innovator, entrepreneur, artist, or leader has failed at some point, often many times. They lost money, got rejected, working, built things that didn't work. But instead of giving up, they used those failures as information. Each mistake became a step. Each setback became a setup for a comeback. Working. School may teach you theory, but failure teaches you reality. It teaches you how to get back up, how to stay calm under pressure, how to keep believing when no one else does. Working. Failure also teaches humility. When things go wrong, it strips away ego. It reminds you that you're not perfect, that there's always more to learn. This mindset creates a powerful advantage. Working. People who accept failure as part of the journey become open to feedback, eager to improve, and resilient in the face of obstacles. They don't waste time pretending to be flawless. Instead, working. They spend time becoming better. And in a world that constantly changes, being adaptable is more valuable than being perfect. Working. What you learn from a single failure can sometimes teach you more than years of formal education. It's direct, personal, and unforgettable. Working. Another thing failure does is build emotional endurance. The first time you fail, it feels devastating. But over time, as you experience more challenges, you build resistance. Working. You stop being scared of falling because you know you can rise. That kind of confidence isn't taught in school. It comes from facing life head on. Failure conditions you to handle pressure, working, to stay patient, to trust your process. It breaks down fear because you realize that the worst case scenario is rarely the end. Often, working. It's just the beginning of a new route you wouldn't have discovered otherwise. Failure also exposes false assumptions. Maybe you thought you were ready, or that people would support you working, or that your idea was perfect. When things don't go according to plan, you're forced to reassess, reflect, and refine. That process is where true learning happens, working. It's one thing to read about strategy, but it's another to launch something and see it fall apart. In those moments, your mind becomes sharper. You begin to notice details you overlooked, working. You develop instincts. You become more creative because you're forced to find another way. Failure is not a dead end. It's a redirection, a recalibration of your potential, working. When people only follow the path laid out by school or society, they often miss these lessons. They may succeed by following instructions, working, but they don't develop the confidence to take initiative, to lead, or to innovate. Without failure, success can feel hollow, just another checkbox, working. But when you've earned success after many failures, you value it more deeply. You understand the weight of it. You know what it took to get there, and you don't take it for granted. Working? That kind of success builds true leadership. It makes you someone others want to follow, not just because of what you've done, but because of who you've become. Working? Failure also filters out those who aren't serious. Everyone likes the idea of winning, but few are willing to keep showing up after losing. Working? The ones who stick with it. The ones who keep going when things look hopeless. Those are the ones who eventually rise. And when they do, they're far more equipped to handle success, working. Because they've already been through the worst. They've trained under pressure. They've built internal strength. A person who has never failed is often fragile, working, unsure of how to respond to adversity. But a person who has failed and recovered is grounded, unshaken, and prepared for whatever comes next, working. You also see who your true supporters are when you fail. When everything is going well, people applaud. But when you fall, the noise fades, working. Those who stay close in your worst times, those are your real allies. Failure teaches you about people, about loyalty, and about how to surround yourself with those who believe in you. Working, not just your success. It teaches empathy too. When you've struggled, you're more likely to lift others up. You understand the weight they carry. You become a better leader working, not just in results, but in spirit. Failure teaches ownership. It forces you to stop blaming others, to stop waiting for perfect conditions. It brings you face to face with your decisions, working. And in that confrontation, you gain power. You realize that your choices matter, that you have control over how you respond. That realization is the beginning of personal leadership, working. It's not taught in schools, but it's essential for anything worth achieving. When you take full responsibility for your failure, you also claim the right to your success, working. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the same road. It's not a sign you're not good enough. It's proof that you're trying, learning, evolving, working. People who embrace failure as feedback grow faster and go further. They don't fear judgment. They don't wait for validation. They move forward, working, wiser and stronger. Skills and mindset beat titles every single time. In a world that's moving faster than ever, working. Where industries are constantly changing and technology is evolving at a rapid pace, the most valuable currency is no longer your job title or academic degree. It's your ability to adapt, working, to think creatively, and to get things done. A title might get you through a door, but it won't keep you in the room if you can't deliver, working. People who rely too heavily on status often become stagnant, while those who focus on developing real skills and a resilient mindset continue to grow, working, regardless of their formal position or background. Having a title means someone gave you a label, manager, engineer, doctor, analyst. But it doesn't automatically mean you can solve problems working, lead a team, or inspire innovation. Skills are what turn ideas into action. They're what drive results. A person with no official title but strong communication, problem solving, working. And leadership abilities can often outperform someone with a prestigious title but no hunger to grow. Titles can be assigned, Skills must be earned, and skills are transferable. Working. You can take them from job to job, industry to industry. A title can be taken away, but your skills stay with you forever. Mindset is just as critical. Working. Two people with the same skill set can have very different outcomes depending on how they think. One may approach challenges with fear, waiting for instructions, afraid to fail. Working. The other might dive in, take initiative, learn from mistakes, and keep pushing forward. That difference comes from mindset. A growth mindset sees every challenge as an opportunity. Working, every failure as a lesson, every setback as a setup for a better comeback. A fixed mindset, on the other hand, looks for comfort, fears change, and avoids risks. The people who lead movements, working. Launch startups and disrupt industries don't have perfect RA summas. They have powerful mindsets. The people who rise the fastest aren't always the ones with the most impressive credentials. Working. They're the ones who are resourceful, self-motivated, and emotionally intelligent. They're the ones who can handle pressure, manage conflict, and adapt quickly to new situations. Working. These traits don't come from a title or a degree. They come from effort, self-awareness, and the willingness to keep growing even when no one is watching. Soft skills like communication, empathy, working, and decision-making are often more influential in long-term success than hard skills alone, and certainly more than any title on a business card. Working. Titles often create illusions of power and competence. But in real-world situations, especially under stress, the truth comes out. If a leader can't lead, the title means nothing. Working. If a manager can't manage, the team falls apart. If an expert can't explain or execute, their authority crumbles. What matters is your ability to bring value to the table. Working. Can you solve problems? Can you create something new? Can you motivate others? Can you stay calm and focused under pressure? These are the real indicators of value. Working. And they don't require a specific title to exist or shine. People who focus on titles often tie their self-worth to external recognition. They chase validation instead of improvement. Working. But the moment they lose the title, their confidence crumbles. That's because they built their identity on something they didn't fully control. On the other hand, working, those who focus on skill and mindset are grounded. They know their worth because it's built from within. They don't need constant applause because they're fueled by purpose and progress. Working. They're not threatened by others' success because they understand that growth isn't a competition. It's a choice. In today's economy, where freelance work, startups, working, and remote roles are becoming the norm, people are realizing that titles have less power than they used to. Many of the most successful individuals today don't have traditional titles. Working. They're creators, builders, problem solvers. They build audiences, launch ideas, and create value from scratch. They earn their reputation through action, not position. Working. When you focus on developing high-impact skills, like storytelling, negotiation, digital literacy, or emotional resilience, you become more adaptable and more in control of your path. Working. You no longer need someone else to promote you or give you a title to feel accomplished. Mindset also plays a critical role when facing uncertainty. Life doesn't follow a script, fall apart. Markets change. Technology disrupts entire industries overnight. In those moments, your title won't save you. Your ability to adapt, to learn quickly, working, and to lead yourself through chaos. That's what matters. People with strong mindsets don't wait for ideal conditions. They build, improve, and move forward with what they have. Working. They don't shrink when things go wrong, they rise. That's the kind of strength that sustains long-term success and turns ordinary people into extraordinary leaders. Working. Even in job interviews or business meetings, it's your skills and mindset that leave the strongest impression. Anyone can list achievements, but not everyone can demonstrate real understanding, working, insight, or presence. Employers and partners look for people who can bring ideas to life, collaborate well, and handle stress with grace. Titles may open the first conversation, working, but your character and capability decide what happens after that. Showing up with confidence, clarity, and competence makes you stand out in ways a title never can. Working. There's also the issue of complacency. When people get too comfortable with their titles, they often stop growing. They think they've arrived. But the moment you stop learning, working, you start falling behind. Skill and mindset development is a lifelong process. The best performers in any field, from athletes to CEOs, never stop training, reflecting, and evolving, working. They understand that growth is continuous and that staying relevant requires effort. A title may reflect where you've been, but it says nothing about where you're going, working. What you choose to do every day, the habits you build, the challenges you embrace, that's what shapes your future. Mindset determines how you respond when things don't go as planned, working. Do you quit or do you adjust? Do you blame others or do you take ownership? Do you wait for instructions or do you take initiative, working? These responses shape your reputation more than any job title ever could. They tell the world whether you're someone who adds value or someone who waits for direction. Over time, working. The people who consistently bring value rise, regardless of what's written on their badge or LinkedIn profile. Skills and mindset are also deeply connected. As your mindset improves, working, your ability to learn and apply skills improves. You become more curious, more courageous, more consistent. Instead of being discouraged by what you don't know, working. You get excited by the chance to learn something new. Instead of hiding from failure, you embrace it as part of the process, working. This attitude accelerates your growth and sets you apart from those who stay limited by fear or pride. It allows you to move fluidly across industries, roles, and even countries, working, because you know how to build value wherever you go. When people rely too heavily on titles, they often resist change. They protect the status quo instead of challenging it, working. But real progress comes from those who think differently, who dare to question and improve what already exists. That courage doesn't come from a title, working. It comes from a mindset that's focused on impact, not ego. It comes from believing that you can learn, evolve, and lead, working. No matter what your background or current role looks like. Dreamers create jobs, not just RA-summaes. In a world where most people are trained to fit into roles, follow instructions, working. And wait for permission, dreamers stand out because they imagine what doesn't yet exist. They don't just seek employment. They create opportunity, working. Not only for themselves, but for others as well. They see problems where others see dead ends, and they respond with ideas, innovation, and action. A resume lists what someone has done, working. A dreamer focuses on what's possible, and that difference in vision is what drives progress, shapes industries, and transforms lives, working. Many people spend years building a perfect resume, collecting degrees, internships, job titles, and certifications, all in the hopes of being noticed, of being chosen, working. Dreamers take a different route. They don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They start businesses, launch projects, take risks, and often fail many times before they succeed, working. But in doing so, they create not only careers for themselves, but also paths for others to follow. Every company that exists today, from small startups to global giants, began as someone's dream, working. Behind every paycheck is someone who once had the courage to say, working. I think this could work. Creating jobs isn't just about having money or resources. It's about having a vision and the drive to bring it to life. Dreamers think in terms of impact, working. They ask, how can I solve this problem? How can I serve people better? How can I make something easier, faster, cheaper, or more meaningful? And once they commit to that vision, working, they go to work, often before they know exactly how it will turn out. They take action when others hesitate. They stay up late learning skills, reaching out to partners, building prototypes, working, testing ideas. They don't wait for someone to tell them it's okay to begin. They begin because they believe it matters. A resume is often focused on conformity. Working, it's built to fit into someone else's criteria. It says, I meet the requirements. I followed the rules. I'm qualified. But the world doesn't always reward those who fit in, working. It often rewards those who stand out. Dreamers are willing to be misunderstood, to take paths that don't yet have maps, to invest time and energy into things others call impossible, working. They are not limited by current systems. They build new ones. They don't chase job openings. They create job offers, not only for themselves, but for designers, marketers, developers, assistants, working, and so many others who help bring big ideas to life. Dreamers think long term. While others may focus on securing the next promotion, dreamers focus on building something that can last, working. They plant seeds knowing it may take years to see results. They invest in people, culture, and values because they know success is not just about revenue, it's about legacy. When you dream big, working, your impact goes beyond your own career. It touches families, communities, even entire industries. Entrepreneurs, artists, inventors, working, and creators, these are the people who imagine what could be and then work relentlessly until it is. And while not every dreamer starts with an resume full of credentials, working, what they build ends up hiring those who do. Job creators often begin as outsiders. They don't always have the perfect background. They might lack connections or formal training, working. But what they have is vision, passion, and grit. They work not for approval, but for progress. They don't measure their worth by job titles or salaries. They measure it by momentum, growth, working, and the value they bring to others. They are willing to be the first, to try when no one else will, and to believe when others doubt. That kind of courage is what drives real innovation. Working. It's not safe. It's not predictable, but it's powerful. When a dreamer succeeds, the benefits ripple outward. One person's idea can become someone else's first job, working. Someone else's big break, someone else's chance to thrive. A small shop can become a chain. A local app can become a global tool. A personal story can become a brand that inspires millions. Working? All of it starts with one person daring to believe that something better is possible. And when that belief is followed by action, the result is not just a resume. It's a movement, a platform, a job engine. Dreamers don't wait for doors to open. They build doors. And then they hand out keys. This doesn't mean that everyone has to be an entrepreneur working. But everyone can think like a dreamer. You can approach your work with creativity, your goals with boldness, and your challenges with imagination. Working. You can stop asking what job title you should aim for and start asking what problem you want to solve. Dreamers see the world not as it is, but as it could be. That mindset changes everything. Working. It turns limitations into projects. It turns setbacks into strategies. It turns a job into a mission. Dreamers also fail, often and publicly, but they use those failures as data. Working. Every rejection teaches them what not to do. Every mistake sharpens their understanding. They learn faster because they act more. And over time, working, they develop not just one skill, but an entire toolbox. They become better leaders, better communicators, better problem solvers. Their experiences become their resume, working. Their stories become their brand, and their progress becomes proof that vision, not just credentials, drives real-world results. In traditional thinking, working. A resume is a record of where you've been. In dreamer thinking, your work is a preview of where you're going, working. Dreamers spend less time proving themselves and more time improving what they're building. They don't seek perfection, they seek momentum. They stay curious, open-minded, working, and committed to the process. They know that credibility is built not just by listing qualifications, but by doing the work that matters over and over, even when it's hard, work even when no one is watching. Dreamers also change the definition of success. Instead of climbing the ladder, they build their own. Instead of waiting for opportunities, they create ecosystems. Working. Instead of trying to be impressive, they focus on being useful. They understand that real power lies in contribution, not comparison. Working. They know that helping others win doesn't diminish their own success. It multiplies it. Their dreams aren't just about personal gain. They're about making a difference, leaving a mark, working, and elevating others along the way. While many people wait for ideal conditions, dreamers work with what they have. They start small with limited resources, but unlimited belief, working. They use free tools, borrowed spaces, and late nights. They knock on doors, send emails, build connections. They keep going even when it's slow, even when others stop. Working, their consistency becomes their strength. Over time, what began as a dream becomes a business, a brand, a movement that others depend on. And in that journey, working, they don't just create a job for themselves. They build opportunity for others to grow, thrive, and succeed.